Are you 60, 70, or 80 years old and walking less than you used to? Maybe your legs tire faster than they once did. Maybe your knees complain on the stairs, or you've caught yourself skipping the evening stroll because it just feels harder than it's worth. And maybe, deep down, there's a quieter reason too, a small fear of stumbling, of losing your balance, of what a fall could mean at this stage of life. If any of that sounds familiar, I need you to hear something important before another day goes by. Walking less is not just a small lifestyle change. It quietly starts a chain reaction in the body that touches everything: your strength, your balance, your circulation, and ultimately your independence. Here's what most people don't realize. After 60, muscle naturally fades faster than it did before, a process researchers call sarcopenia, and the legs are usually the first place it shows. The numbers are sobering. Without deliberate effort, adults can lose a meaningful percentage of their muscle mass each decade after middle age, and the pace accelerates in the 70s and 80s. The less you walk, the weaker the legs become. The weaker the legs become, the harder walking feels, and so you walk even less. It's a downward spiral, and millions of good people slide down it every year, believing it's simply what aging looks like. They tell themselves it's normal. Their families tell them to rest. And with every week of resting, the spiral turns a little further. But here is the truth the research keeps confirming, and it should fill you with genuine hope. It doesn't have to go that way. The human body remains remarkably trainable at 70, at 80, and beyond. In one of the most famous studies in the entire field of aging, researchers put people in their late 80s and 90s, many of them living in care facilities, on a simple strength program. And within about 10 weeks, their leg strength had increased dramatically, with some participants setting aside their walkers and walking with canes instead. Think about that: 90-year-olds rebuilding real strength in a matter of weeks. Whatever your age is today, your muscles are still listening. They are simply waiting to be asked. And that's exactly what today's video is about. If long walks have become difficult, the answer is not to stop moving, because that's the one choice that guarantees decline. The answer is to replace what walking used to give you, piece by piece, with movements you can do safely at home. I'm going to show you 5 simple things, most of them using nothing more than a sturdy chair and a kitchen counter, that maintain and rebuild the very abilities walking used to protect leg strength, balance, circulation, and stamina. These 5 practices come straight from what researchers and physical therapy programs use with older adults every day, translated into plain language for your living room. And stay with me until the end, because the fifth one is the easiest of all, takes almost no effort, and yet may be the most important habit on this entire list. But before we begin, do me one small kindness that helps me a great deal. Leave your like on this video, because that's how it reaches more people who've quietly started walking less and believe nothing can be done. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. And tell me down in the comments what city and state you're watching from and how old you are, because I read every single comment and I truly love knowing who's here with me on this journey. Deal? Then let's get started. First, though, let's be honest for a moment about why the walking slowed down in the first place, because it's almost never laziness, and you deserve to hear that said out loud. For some people, it's pain, a knee that aches on the downhill, a hip that stiffens after the first block, feet that complain in the morning. For others, it's breath. The wind just isn't what it used to be, and a walk that once felt easy now demands recovery. For many, it's fear after a stumble, or after watching a friend's life change because of one bad fall, and that fear is not silly. It's a rational response to a real risk. And for others still, it's simply circumstance: a hard winter, a hospital stay, the loss of a walking partner, a move to a new place. The walking faded, quietly, and nobody planned it. Here's why naming the reason matters so much: because each of those reasons is a signal, not a sentence. Pain, breathlessness, and unsteadiness are the body asking for a different kind of help, not asking you to stop moving altogether. And the five practices we're about to walk through were chosen precisely with those reasons in mind. They're gentle on painful joints. They build breath in tiny, safe doses. They rebuild steadiness right next to solid support. So fear never has to be part of the equation. Whatever took your walking down a notch, this list was built to meet you exactly where you are, in your own living room, at your own pace. So now, let's get to number one. Number one, the sit to stand, the single most useful exercise after 60. If I could only recommend one movement for the rest of your life, it would be this one. And I want to take my time with it because it deserves it. Here's how it works. Sit toward the front edge of a sturdy chair, ideally one with armrests, feet flat on the floor about hip width apart, heels tucked slightly back toward the chair. Now lean your shoulders slightly forward so your nose passes over your toes, push down through your heels, and stand all the way up until your hips are fully straight. Then, and this part matters just as much, lower yourself back down slowly, with control, taking 2 or 3 seconds on the way down instead of dropping into the seat. That's one repetition. It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But look at what this humble movement actually trains: the thighs, the hips, the buttocks, and the deep core muscles, which are the exact engine that walking runs on and the exact engine that daily life runs on. Every single day, you rise from the bed, from the toilet, from the dining chair, from the car seat. Researchers estimate that older adults perform this movement dozens of times a day without ever thinking of it as exercise. When those muscles weaken, each of those ordinary moments becomes a small struggle and eventually a moment of dependence, waiting for a hand, an armrest, a pull. When those muscles are strong, every one of those moments is freedom. And here's something most people never learn. This movement is so central to healthy aging that researchers use it as an official test. It's called the 30-second chair stand test, and it measures how many times a person can rise from a chair without using their hands in half a minute. Clinics around the world use the result to estimate leg strength and fall risk in older adults. That's how seriously science takes this one simple motion. So when you practice it at home, you're not doing some made up exercise from the internet. You're training the precise ability that medicine itself uses to measure your independence. Now, how to begin? Start honestly wherever you are today. If you need to push off the armrests with your hands, that's perfectly fine. That's your starting point, and it still counts. Try 3 to 5 repetitions, rest, and if you feel good, do one more small set later in the day. Over the coming weeks, aim to gradually reduce the help from your hands, then build toward 8 or 10 repetitions, then toward 2 sets a day. If your knees complain, don't sit as deep. Place a firm cushion or folded blanket on the chair so the seat is higher and the movement is shorter. As you grow stronger, remove the cushion. The beautiful thing about this exercise is that it responds fast. Many people feel a real difference within 2 or 3 weeks in how stairs feel, in how the body rises in the morning, in that quiet confidence of standing up smoothly without a second thought. And let me paint the picture of how this typically unfolds, because it's encouraging. Imagine someone in their mid 70s who starts with 5 assisted stands each morning, hands firmly on the armrests, a little shaky, a little skeptical. Week one feels like nothing much, but by week three, they notice they're using their hands less. By week five, they rise from the dinner table in one smooth motion and only realize afterward that they didn't push off. By week eight, the bathroom in the middle of the night is no longer a small project, and the car seat no longer wins the argument. Nothing dramatic happened on any single day. The repetitions simply compounded, quietly, the way savings do. That's how strength returns after 60, not with fireworks, but with interest. Safety, always. Do this next to something stable. Breathe normally instead of holding your breath. Take a pause between repetitions and stop if you feel sharp pain, chest discomfort, or dizziness. Slow, controlled repetitions build muscle just as well as fast ones, and they're far kinder to the joints. Master this one movement, and everything else on this list becomes easier because strong thighs are the engine of walking. But an engine is not enough if the foundation underneath it wobbles. And that brings us to the second thing, the one that quietly protects you from the fall you fear most. Number two, balance practice, the skill that keeps you on your feet. Here's something most people never hear from anyone. Balance is not a fixed trait that simply fades with age like hair color. Balance is a skill. It lives in a constant conversation between your feet, your inner ear, your eyes, and your brain. And like any skill, it weakens when unused and strengthens when practiced. And this matters enormously because falls are the number one threat to independence after 60. One in four older adults falls each year, and a serious fall can change the course of a life in a single second. But here's the detail that surprises everyone. Most falls don't happen on ice or on stairs or in dramatic situations. They happen in utterly ordinary moments, turning around in the kitchen, stepping out of the shower, reaching up to a shelf, getting up at night, when a balance system gone quiet from lack of practice fails to catch a tiny wobble in time. The wonderful news is that this system wakes right back up with just a few minutes of gentle practice a day, and the research on fall prevention is emphatic about it. Balance training is one of the most effective things an older adult can do, period. So let me walk you through a safe progression, step by step. Stage one, stand behind your kitchen counter or a sturdy, heavy chair, resting your fingertips lightly on it. Stand tall, eyes forward, and simply shift your weight slowly from one foot to the other, side to side, 10 times, feeling the pressure move across your feet. Then shift forward onto your toes and back onto your heels, gently, 10 times. This alone, done daily, begins retuning the whole system. Stage two, when that feels easy after a week or so, the tandem stance. Place one foot directly in front of the other, heel touching toe, as if standing on a narrow line, fingertips still on your support. Hold for 10 seconds, then switch which foot is in front. It will feel surprisingly wobbly at first, and that wobble is not failure. That wobble is precisely the training. Your nervous system is recalibrating in real time. Stage three, in the weeks that follow, lighten your contact. Fingertips become one finger. One finger becomes hands hovering an inch above the counter, ready but not touching. And eventually, stage four, stand beside the counter and lift one foot slightly off the floor, holding for 10 seconds, then the other side. That single leg stand, practiced daily beside solid support, appears in fall prevention programs around the world because it works. And while we're on the subject of steadiness, let me hand you two bonus habits that fall prevention specialists quietly swear by because they cost nothing. First, the morning pause. When you wake, sit on the edge of the bed for a full 30 seconds before standing, letting your blood pressure catch up with you, because that dizzy first minute of the day is one of the most common moments for falls in older adults. Second, the lighting rule. Light the path before you walk it, especially at night. A nightlight in the hallway, a lamp within reach of the bed. Balance is a team effort between your body and your environment. And these two tiny habits take the environment off the list of opponents. The golden rule here is absolute and non negotiable. Always practice balance next to something solid you can grab instantly, never in the middle of an open room, never on a slick floor, never in loose socks. Wear shoes or grippy slippers and clear away rugs and clutter from your practice spot. The goal is to gently challenge your balance, never to test it to the point of failure. And remember this principle: 2 or 3 minutes every single day is worth far more than 20 minutes once a week, because balance is built through frequent, small reminders to the nervous system. Many people simply attach it to a daily anchor, practicing while the coffee brews or while the evening news plays. Steady your feet day by day, and as your legs grow steadier beneath you, there's a third piece your body is quietly asking for, one that lives below the knee and affects everything from your circulation to that heavy, swollen feeling in your ankles at the end of the day. Number three, heel raises, the forgotten pump in your calves. Your calf muscles do something almost magical that most people go their whole lives without learning. Every time they contract, they squeeze the deep veins of the lower leg and physically pump blood back up toward your heart against gravity, floor by floor. The medical world literally calls the calf muscle the second heart, and it's not a poetic exaggeration, it's a description of real plumbing. When you walk plenty, that second heart beats all day long with every step. When you walk less, it goes quiet, and the consequences show up exactly where you'd expect: feet and ankles that swell by evening, legs that feel heavy and tired, circulation that slows, and that restless discomfort that makes you want to put your feet up. Heel raises turn the pump back on, and they could not be simpler to do. Here's the standing version. Stand tall, holding the back of a chair or the edge of the kitchen counter with both hands. Slowly rise up onto the balls of your feet, lifting your heels as high as is comfortable. Pause for a full second at the top, feeling the calves squeeze, then lower back down slowly with control, taking 2 or 3 seconds on the descent. That slow lowering, by the way, is where much of the strength is built, so resist the urge to just drop down. Do 8 to 12 repetitions, rest a minute, and if you feel good, do a second round. Twice a day, morning and evening, is a wonderful rhythm, and each session takes barely 2 minutes. Can't stand for long or having a rough day? There's a seated version that still runs the pump beautifully. Sitting in your chair, simply raise your heels off the floor as high as you can while keeping your toes down, pause, and lower. You can do these while watching television, while reading, while on the phone. 20 or 30 gentle repetitions scattered through an evening. Long car ride or a day when you're mostly sitting? Seated heel raises and toe raises, alternating. Keep the blood moving in exactly the way doctors recommend. For many people, doing calf work consistently brings a noticeable difference within a couple of weeks. Less ankle swelling by evening, legs that feel lighter, and as a bonus, a stronger push off in every step they do take, because the calves are what propel you forward when you walk. And notice the hidden gift inside the standing version. Rising up onto your toes is itself a gentle balance challenge. So you're actually training two systems at once: strength and steadiness in one simple move. As always, keep your hands on that support, move slowly, and one honest caution: if you have significant foot pain, open sores on your feet, or a history of blood clots in your legs, skip this one until you've talked with your doctor, because those situations need personal guidance. Strong thighs from number one, steady balance from number two, a pumping second heart from number three. Now there's a fourth piece, and it answers the question you may already be asking: but what about my heart and my lungs, the endurance, the wind that walking used to give me? Number four, seated marching and gentle standing intervals, endurance without the long walk. Here's the beautiful secret about stamina that sets so many people free: your heart and lungs don't actually know whether you're on a scenic trail or in your living room. They can't see the scenery. They respond to one thing only: minutes of rhythmic, gentle movement, wherever that movement happens. So if long walks are off the table right now because of joint pain, fatigue, weather, or confidence, you can absolutely rebuild your endurance indoors in small, safe doses and carry it back outside later. This is exactly how cardiac rehabilitation programs work, by the way. Small bouts, gently repeated, patiently progressed. The simplest starting point is seated marching. Sit tall in your sturdy chair, away from the backrest if you can, and lift one knee, then the other, in a steady, comfortable rhythm, as if marching in place while seated. Let your arms swing gently in rhythm if that feels natural, or pump them lightly for a bit more effort. Start with 1 minute, rest, and breathe for a minute. Then do another. That's it. That's day one. Over the days, extend each bout toward 2 minutes and add a third bout in the afternoon. You're not chasing exhaustion, ever. You're gently raising your breathing and letting it settle again and again, which is precisely the signal that tells the heart and lungs to grow stronger. When seated marching feels easy, graduate to the standing version. Stand behind your chair, hands resting lightly on its back, and march gently in place on your feet, 30 seconds to a minute at a time, knees only as high as comfortable. Later still, you might march during a favorite song or walk laps down your hallway, turning carefully at each end. The magic formula through all of it is little and often. 3 or 4 small bouts spread across the day beat one exhausting session every time, especially after 60, because they build the engine without ever overwhelming it. And here's your built-in safety gauge, straight from exercise research, called the talking pace. At the right intensity, you're breathing noticeably, but you can still hold a conversation in full sentences. If you're gasping, ease off. If you could sing an opera, nudge up a little. A word, too, for the days when even this feels like too much, because those days come for everyone. On a low energy day, shrink the practice, don't skip it. 1 minute of seated marching instead of 3 bouts, 5 heel raises instead of 20, a single sit to stand on the way to the kitchen. It sounds almost symbolic, and in a way it is, but the symbol matters enormously. You're keeping the thread unbroken. Researchers who study habits find that the difference between people who succeed long term and people who drift away is rarely intensity, it's continuity. The person who never lets 2 0 days happen in a row is the person still moving well 5 years later. So on the hard days, do the tiny version and count it proudly. Over the weeks, something quietly wonderful tends to happen. The walk to the mailbox stops feeling like a project, then the corner, then around the block on a nice morning. Not because you forced yourself back out there through willpower, but because you rebuilt the engine underneath, indoors, 1 gentle minute at a time. And notice what's now happening across these first 4 practices: strength from the sit to stands, steadiness from the balance work, circulation from the heel raises, stamina from the marching. Each one feeds the others, and together they replace exactly what walking used to maintain. But there's still one missing piece, the easiest one of all, and the one almost everyone overlooks. It doesn't look like exercise at all. It costs nothing, takes seconds, and yet without it, everything else on this list is working against a headwind. That brings us to number five. Number five, breaking up your sitting time, the tiny habit that changes everything. Here it is, the easiest and quite possibly the most important item on this entire list. Simply stand up more often. Let me explain why something so small deserves the final spot. In recent years, researchers studying healthy aging made a discovery that surprised even them. Long, unbroken hours of sitting quietly harm the body, slowing circulation, stiffening joints, dulling the muscle's response to sugar in the blood, and even lowering mood. And they do this somewhat independently of whether you exercise. In other words, a good morning exercise session cannot fully undo 10 motionless hours in the recliner afterward. The sitting itself, in long, unbroken blocks, is its own quiet problem. But here's the flip side, and it's wonderfully hopeful. The fix is almost embarrassingly gentle. You don't need to sit less overall so much as you need to interrupt the sitting. Stand up every 30 to 45 minutes, even for 1 single minute. Walk to the window and look outside. Refill your water glass. Do 2 heel raises at the counter while you're there. Check the mailbox. Then sit back down, guilt free. That's the whole practice. Research on older adults suggests that these frequent tiny breaks in sitting time are meaningfully linked with better circulation, better blood sugar handling, and better physical function over time. Small hinges, swinging big doors. And it sounds like nothing, which is exactly why it works, because it asks so little that you will actually do it every day indefinitely. The trick is to attach it to anchors you already have. Stand up at every commercial break. Stand up every time the clock strikes a new hour. Stand up when you finish a chapter, when a phone call ends, when the kettle boils. Some people set a gentle timer, others just adopt the household rule that no hour passes entirely in the chair. And notice the beautiful trick hiding inside this habit. Every single one of those little rises from the chair is, yes, a tiny sit to stand, the very exercise from number one. Every stroll to the kitchen is a miniature walk. Every pause at the counter is a chance for 2 heel raises or 10 seconds of balance. Across a whole day, this one habit quietly weaves every other practice on this list into the fabric of ordinary life. And there's one more gift hiding here, perhaps the deepest one. This habit rebuilds trust. The person who rises from the chair 30 times a day is sending their body and their mind a constant message: I can. That quiet, accumulating confidence is the exact opposite of the fear that makes people move less and less until the world shrinks to a single room. Little by little, sitting less becomes moving more. Moving more becomes walking again. And walking again means the world stays large. So there they are, the 5 things. But before we close, let me put the whole plan together for you in the simplest possible terms, because how you start matters just as much as what you do. Here's your simple plan, and I beg you, don't try to do everything at once, because that's how people burn out by Thursday. Start this week with just 2 things: a few sit to stands each morning, using the armrests as much as you need, and the habit of standing up every half hour or so through the day. That's the whole first week, nothing else. When that feels natural, add the heel raises, perhaps while the coffee brews in the morning and again while the evening news plays. A week or two later, add the balance practice at the kitchen counter, 2 quiet minutes a day. And then, when the foundation feels steady, fold in the little marching bouts in the afternoon. Within a month or so, without ever once doing a formal workout, you will have woven strength, balance, circulation, and stamina back into your ordinary days. And gentle consistency like that, the research is very clear, beats occasional heroic effort every single time. And here's a small suggestion that multiplies everything else: keep a simple record. Nothing fancy, a note on the calendar, a tally on a scrap of paper by the chair. Each day you do your stands, make a mark. Once a week, count how many sit to stands you can do in 30 seconds and write the number down. There's real psychology behind this. Progress you can see is progress you'll protect. The day you look back and realize the number went from 4 to 7, something shifts in how you see yourself. You stop being someone who is declining and become someone who is building. And that identity quietly changes everything downstream: how you move, how you plan, how you say yes to invitations you'd started declining. Let me also give you the honest expectations, because false promises help no one. The first week, it may just feel like effort. By the second or third week, most people notice the first small changes: rising from the chair a touch more smoothly, ankles a little less puffy by evening, a bit more steadiness turning in the kitchen. By 6 to 8 weeks, the changes are usually undeniable. Stairs feel different, the body feels more willing, and that mailbox walk has quietly stopped being a negotiation. Progress after 60 is real, but it is patient. Every repetition, however small, is a deposit in the bank account of your independence, and that account compounds. Listen to your body along the way because it will talk to you. A little muscle tiredness the day after is normal, even welcome. It's the sound of muscles adapting. Sharp pain is not. Chest pressure, unusual shortness of breath, or dizziness are not, and they mean stop now and check with your doctor before continuing. Do the standing exercises near something sturdy every single time. Wear proper shoes or grippy slippers. Clear the practice area of loose rugs, cords, and clutter, and always go slower than you think you need to at the beginning. There is no prize for rushing and no judge keeping score. The goal was never to become an athlete at 75. The goal is to keep being the person who rises from the chair on their own, crosses the room with confidence, gets down on the floor with a grandchild and back up again, and lives life on their own 2 feet, in their own home, by their own choice. Now, I want to be completely honest and responsible with you because your safety matters more than anything else in this video. I am not a doctor and I am not a physical therapist, and this video is not medical advice. Everything here is general information based on published research about healthy aging and movement, and it is not a substitute for professional guidance about your specific body and your specific health. If you have heart disease, severe joint problems, osteoporosis, ongoing dizziness, a history of falls, recent surgery, or any diagnosed condition, please talk with your doctor or a physical therapist before starting these exercises because they can tailor every one of them safely to you, and a single session of personalized guidance is worth more than 100 videos. And one more thing, said with care, if your walking has declined suddenly or together with new pain, chest symptoms, breathlessness, numbness, or weakness on one side, that is not something to exercise through. That is something to get checked promptly because sudden changes deserve real medical attention. The wisest path is always the same one. These gentle practices and your doctor's guidance together, hand in hand, never one instead of the other. So here's my invitation, and it's the smallest one I've ever made. Don't let this be just another video you watch and forget. When it ends, before you do anything else, stand up from your chair one time. Slowly with control, shoulders forward, push through the heels all the way up. That's it. That's your first sit to stand, your first deposit, your first quiet answer to the spiral. Everything begins there. If this video helped you see that walking less doesn't have to mean giving up, do me a kindness and leave your like because it genuinely helps this reach more people who've quietly started moving less and believe it's too late when it absolutely is not. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. And tell me down in the comments, what city and state are you watching from? How old are you? And which of these 5 are you starting with this week? I read every single comment, and I promise you, the stories you share down there encourage everyone here more than you know. Thank you for spending this time with me. Stand up tall, take good care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.